Okay, good morning. On behalf of NASCAR and Pocono Raceway, welcome to this weekend's events here at Pocono. It's great to be back. Like what they've done to the media center. Looks good. So,
What'd they do?
Pardon me?
What'd they do?
Put some paint and did some painting and just some other interior design.
I haven't been in the media center very many times here. Kind of looks like Kalen picked out the colors.
It looks
Anyway,
good.
go ahead.
It looks good. But anyhow, we've got Matt Kenseth that's joined us. Matt drives the number $20 General Toyota for Joe Gibbs Racing, and certainly Matt, we're getting down to the nitty-gritty. I believe 6 to go before we establish the chase field. Right now, you are in good shape as far as points go, but I know you'd like to get that win this season. Just talk about your mindset this weekend here at Pocono.
Well, just, I feel like we've been running better lately. I feel like we have some momentum as far as how our cars are running as an organization. So this has not been one of the best tracks for me. I haven't really done the best here. So, but it's a really good track for Denny. Kyle runs well here. They ran pretty well last time we were here. So hopefully we can go have a clean weekend and, have a good run. Like I said, this is probably one of the more challenging places for me for some reason. So looking forward to getting on the track today. The weather looks good so far. So hopefully we can, log some miles today and learn some stuff for Sunday.
We'll take questions from Matt. If you have one, raise your hand. We have a couple of wireless mics. Those that have the wireless mics, please wave them in the air, please. We'll start right here with Al Pierce. Then we'll go to the gentleman back there in the burnt orange shirt. Go ahead. State your name and affiliation, please.
Al Pierce's Auto Week. Kerry kind of stole my thunder about the fact that points-wise you're in really good shape. Do you sort of at some point begin to think, all right, let's don't take any chances on winning, maybe at Richmond or at Atlanta. Let's ride the points and make the chase and go from there. Is that coming to your mind at all?
Nah, because you get the most points to win. So I don't ever know why you wouldn't want to win. I mean, I know I get asked those questions all the time, and people always look at me like I'm being smart, but it's true. I mean, you get the most points to lead the most laps and win. So why wouldn't you want to show up and sit in the pole, lead every lap, and win the race? Then you got the most points, and you're locked in because you got to win. Life is good. So I think that's what we aim to do every weekend. I mean, if you could force a win, or if you could, gamble or do something crazy to win a race, you do it every week. I mean, you want to win. You want to win every week. So I mean, there's the very, very, very rare circumstance where maybe you're like, all right, well, I can, I'm 2 laps short on fuel at Pocono, which you know that your chances of making that are almost nothing, and I'm gonna try to make it because we gotta get the win. We're the only one that can make it, and run out and finish 35th. I mean, yeah, you have things like that very seldom happen. I mean, they're so good at figuring fuel mileage today and strategy and all that stuff. They typically know if you're going to make it or not make it. But other than those kind of situations, I mean, we go out and try to prepare and race and do all those things with the idea of trying to win.
Let's go to the gentleman in the burnt orange shirt, and we'll go over here to Marty Smith and then to Kenny Bruce. Go ahead, sir.
Zach Sternil from the Pocono Record. You kind of touched on it when you were opening up, that the organization has been running better as a whole. You finished 2, 3, 4 last week at Indy. A lot of trends show that guys that run well at Indy have a lot of good runs at Pocono. I know Pocono isn't one of your best tracks, but does a run like last week give you more confidence heading into this week?
Well, it doesn't hurt. I think whenever you run good really anywhere except for maybe a super speedway, it gives you confidence going the next week, even if it's a totally different kind of racetrack. So I feel like, at Loudon, I thought all 3 of us had top 5 cars. We all ran well at Kentucky. We all ran well last weekend, and those are all very different racetracks. So, it gives you some hope that in general, on average, you're getting your stuff better and it's getting faster, and we seem to be gaining on it toward the right time of the year. So, just keep working on it and hope that continues, and we can keep putting all 3 of our cars up front there and hopefully start winning some races.
Over here, Marty. Raise your hand, Marty. We go to Kenny Bruce after Marty, and then we're going to go to Dustin.
Marty, he told you to raise your hand. Now raise your hand.
We're good.
There we go.
We got Marty, Kenny.
You got to listen to Kerry, man.
I know.
He'll kick you out of here in a hurry.
Kenny runs a tight ship. He'll throw him out of here.
Go ahead,
He'll
buddy.
kick you out of this green striped room in a hurry.
It is sort of green striped. Did you notice the green stripes on the asphalt too?
I did not.
I guess you don't really see parking lots. You just sort of chop her in with
Yeah,
Go ahead,
right.
Marty, your question, please.
Sorry, Kerry.
See, I told you.
tight ship. It's very difficult to win out here at all, obviously. How hard is it to sustain being competitive over 10, 15, 20 years like Jeff Gordon has?
Well, I think when you look at almost anybody's career, and I say almost because Jimmy Johnson seems to be the exception, but I think you see, you know, especially, you know, with Jeff, he's done way better than pretty much anybody else in the garage, so he's had a lot higher times. But he's also had some years that haven't been great, that have probably been frustrating and hasn't won as much and you know, hasn't ran up front as much. So I think you see everybody go through, you know, up and down times. Most of us haven't been as fortunate as him to have that many up times. But, you know, I think you always see it, you know, up and down a little bit, and some years are better than others. But, you know, it's funny how fast things can change. You know, a couple of years ago, all the rumblings were about, you know, Jeff retired and his back hurts and he's not running as good and this and that and other thing. And now he's winning all the biggest races of the year and runs up front every week and is a real, you know, I think on the front of everybody's mind for trying to win another championship. So, yeah, he's had a great career, and it's still rolling great. So, me not being one of the young guys anymore, and not nearly as old as Jeff, but not that far behind him, you know, you like to see that group still winning and running good, because, you know, you're part of that group and you want to keep doing it as long as you can.
Okay, Kenny Bruce, right there behind you, Zachary. And then we'll go to Dustin and then to Nate Ryan.
Kenny Bruce with NASCAR.com. Matt, when you look at the races that are coming up between here and Richmond, including Richmond, is there any particular track that you feel better about your team's chances based on how you guys have performed thus far this year? And I guess does one stand out more that you think we can get we stand a better chance of winning here?
Well, I mean, man, it's always a moving target. You know, last year I felt like there wasn't very many tracks that we didn't have a shot to win on. I really felt like if we did everything right at, not every week last year, but a lot of weeks that, you know, we could win at. Certainly this year, even if some of the tracks were great for us, last year we haven't been quite as good. You know, but to answer your question, I guess probably, you know, I haven't really put much thought into it, but probably Bristol. I feel like since I've been at JGR, which is only obviously my second year, but all three trips to Bristol, I really felt like we could have won all three of those races. I really felt like we had the best car. Both races last year. Got wrecked out in the spring just by a freak accident when Jeff blew his tire. We won the fall race, and then this spring I thought we had, you know, one of the best cars for sure. I thought we were a little bit better than the 99 and got wrecked there under that yellow. So you never know what's going to happen at Bristol. Obviously, we had two wrecks and a win, so I mean you could get wrecked as easily as you could have a shot at a win. But I feel like our cars have been really fast there. So just thinking about that track, it seems like hopefully we'll run that good again.
Over to the far right, Dustin, then Nate, and then the gentleman right there behind Dustin.
Dustin Long, MRN.com. Matt, I understand, obviously, nobody changes one job for a job that's worse. So if you're moving on, you feel like you're moving on to a better situation. But what you have done, what Kevin Harvick has done in your first years in moving, is, you know, the success you've had, do you feel like you guys are kind of showing the garage that these transitions are a little bit easier than maybe what had been seen in the past? And obviously we're going to see it again next year with Carl Edwards with his move. Are you guys have you become a trendsetter, and is it become easier to make that transition from one organization to the next than maybe what it might have been or perceived to have been?
Well, I think the situation is different for everybody. I think there's different situations. You're in those situations for a different reason. I mean, I think that when the driver's the one to make a decision to leave, you know, he's not going to leave where he's at unless he thinks he can run better where he's going. But on the other hand, if you get let go, you know, because you're not performing or they can't get sponsors or whatever, and you don't want to go, and you got to pick out, you know, whoever will give you a job, you know, typically that transition's probably not going to be as productive and run as well because you feel like you're probably taking a step back. So I think it depends on the situation. I mean, with me and with Kevin, you know, we kind of just, you know, I can't really speak for him, but I think it was both of our decisions to go try to do something else to, hopefully have better performance, do all kind of stuff.
It can be difficult that first year with the new team, new crew chief, but you guys seem to, in your first year of the success and what Kevin's been able to do, it seems like you guys have kind of shown that that's not as big of a hurdle as maybe once was thought to be. Is that fair? Or?
All right, I'll try to answer it again. I think it depends on the situation. I think if the driver decides to leave because he thinks that he can better himself and run better at the other place, and he feels like he's getting an upgrade as far as equipment or whatever that may be, I think the transition is much easier. I think if you're let go and things aren't going well in your career and you got to make a transition and are stepping down because of where you're at, they don't want you anymore, I think the transition looks much more difficult.
Come down the row right here to Nate, and we'll go back to the gentleman there, and then we'll probably end with Marty.
Nate Ryan, USA Today Sports. Matt, with Darian Grubb missing this week, potential 11 might not have him back till Chicagoland, there's been a lot of chatter this week about the impact of not having a crew chief, and there's been one school of thought that maybe in today's environment with technology, with communication, that it's not as harmful to have a crew chief out. And you won last year at Darlington and without Jason. What is the impact, I guess, of not having a crew chief at the tracking, and is there some maybe small benefit that might be gained by having them at the shop preparing cars and doing all that stuff?
Well, I think that it's probably not as hard today as it was in the past, just because of electronic communications and technology and all the ways they can chat on computers, the way they can do all that stuff. Certainly, I think it makes it easier as far as the technical aspect and changes to the car and setups and like all that kind of stuff. But you're still missing your head coach, the guy who leads the people and gets them together and talks strategy, and you're still not looking in his eyes and talking face-to-face and doing all that kind of stuff. So I think it's not as hard as it was at one time, but I think certainly you'd still want him here.
What was it like at Darlington last year? Was that a surprise you guys were able to gel so well?
Yeah, I mean, we had a lot going on that week, for sure. So, Jason was still really involved. Wally's been really plugged into JGR for a long time. I've known Wally for a long time. He worked at Roush when I was back there, and I've known him forever. He's got crew chief experience. So JGR has a lot of depth, and it wasn't hard to just plug him into that. But certainly Jason was real close to it the whole time as well.
Let's go to the gentleman back here on the right, and then we'll go back over here and end with Marty.
Yeah, Matt, it's Paul Reinhardt from the Morning Call. You talked earlier about this not being a track where you've done that well. Is that something in your makeup as a driver? Is it the track? What is it that makes this a problem, or whatever you might call it, for you?
Well, I mean, you have to go back and look at all the races. There's some races I felt like we ran pretty good but didn't finish as well for whatever reason. Other times we just haven't ran well. So I don't know. I mean, I guess, naturally, everybody, you're better at some places than others. So, maybe it's a track you struggle a little bit more at, or you got to work harder at, or your feedback's not as good or whatever. But, that's a great question. I feel like when our cars run good, all three of us seem to run pretty good. No matter what the track is, we seem to be able to help each other and feed off each other and get running better. But I'm not really sure. It's never been a wonderful track for me. In the spring last year, I think we had a pretty good run. I don't remember where we finished or what happened, but I think we ran pretty well. So just kind of come with an open mind every time we come here and keep trying to do better.
I think we have time for one more question. Anybody else before we conclude? Right here, Jim Utter.
Yeah, Marty was going to ask another question. Yeah, I'm so scared from yelling at him, he decided not to. You see him over there? His tail's between his legs.
That's not it at all. His question was asked. Go ahead, Jim.
Jim.
Yeah, he's on business today. He needs another cup of coffee.
Yeah. Jim Utter, Shaw Observer. I was just curious what you thought of Mark Martin's new job at Roush going back, and what do you think he'll do for them over there?
I know very little to nothing about it. I was just taking off yesterday, and somebody said, oh, yeah, he's coming back to be a driver coach or something. That was all I heard. So, I mean, I think, Mark started with Jack. Mark, has always really liked Jack, and I had a lot of respect for him, and I figured someday he would end back there in some shape or form. I'm sorry he's not going to start driving again, but so I think that's good for him. I've had limited communication with him. I try to talk to him every once in a while and check on him, and I'm not so sure that retirement's for him quite yet. He's been around it his whole life, and it's pretty much been his life is racing. So I have a feeling that he probably misses it a lot and wants to try to figure out how to get in the garage area, some way and do some things. So, I'm glad for him that hopefully he finds something that he likes doing.
Matt, I've loosened my reins. We're going to finish with the gentleman right here on the left.
This is probably going to be the hardest one for you. Are the drivers allowed to talk about the RTA?
About the what?
The RTA?
Oh, I mean, I could talk about it if I knew anything about it.
You don't know anything about it.
Yeah, but since I don't, I guess I can't. Yeah, you can call my lawyer if you want and talk to him. I'm just kidding. That's all I know about it. I read one article.
Thank you, Matt.
Gary's like, I knew I should have let him ask that question.
Hey, have a good race.